Hey everybody, it's Cass and Court TV. It's your girl, Miss Public Info, here with the latest and greatest and sometimes hated updates of the most high-profile cases going on around the country. I am back. I had a little bit of a hiatus, a little bit of rest there, needed a little bit of that. Thanks so much for hanging with me. But we are back here live and in living color on this hump day, this Wednesday, halfway through the week, guys. I hope everyone is having a great week, and I hope that you have some great plans for the weekend. Now, let's get into it. We're going to talk about P. Diddy and a Drewski, comedian Drewski, this alleged sexual assault civil lawsuit that someone has launched against them. There's been a development in that. We're going to talk about DDG and Halle Bailey in custody court. And we will probably hit on a few other topics loosely there, but that's going to be our two main topics. This is going to be a little bit of a short episode to kick things off for the week, but we'll get back to normal later on. Now, as it relates to this Drewski lawsuit, there is a young lady by the name of Ashley Parham who basically is accusing uh, Sean Combs, because you could be wondering, well, what does this have to do with Sean Combs? Well, Drewski and Sean Combs have been named in a dual, it's not really a dual lawsuit, it's actually a group lawsuit. It's multiple individuals involved in this lawsuit against launched against them by someone, a young lady by the name of Ashley Parham, who actually launched this lawsuit in October 2024. But this is actually stemming from a situation that happened in March of 2018. Now, the sanctions decision to these RAPE allegations against Drewski in this case involving Sean Combs is actually saying that Drewski was not there. That is what the latest development is saying in this suit, that there's no possible way that he was there. His attorneys are pulling out the receipts. They have pulled out a cell phone activity. They've also pulled out debit card activity to prove that he was nowhere near Orinda, California, where this supposed RAPE sexual assault happened, that he was in Atlanta at the time. The debit card receipts, the phone records also show that they were made in and around Atlanta in the Duluth area. I'm not familiar with Georgia, but I am told that Duluth is very close in proximity to the city of Atlanta. So the fact that he was home. Now, her attorney shot back and said, yes, but this phone is owned by Drewski's mother, one Cheryl Desbordes, which is Drewski's legal last name, and said that this phone could have been used by his mother, Cheryl Desbordes, who lives there in in Atlanta. She could have been the one to use the phone during this time. It's in her name, but this could basically be her phone. Also, the debit card records. That debit card could have been used by anyone, but the court is saying that within reason, that it would be reasonable that someone who was utilizing this phone in this particular area and someone who was utilizing this debit card in the same area, that it would be reasonable that it would be this individual, that it would be a little bit too far-fetched to say that this would not be that individual, to say that he was not in fact there, that he was in this other location in Orinda, California. So the plaintiff's attorneys, which is Ms. Parham's attorneys, say that you know, no, we don't want to dismiss him from this lawsuit. This happened at the sanctions hearing here recently, after the records show that he the records and his attorneys, I should say, shown that he could not have possibly be there and have participated in the assault. But at the hearing, even with that information, at the hearing on the motion for the sanctions, her attorneys expressly stated that the plaintiffs in this case have no desire to dismiss him from the lawsuit. Now, I am going to get into, I want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing and that you guys aren't looking at something else. Great. Okay. Still getting this together. Now, the plaintiff's allegations are pertaining to Drewski, are almost certainly lack a factual basis. Now, this is what the Drewski's attorneys are saying, that Drewski's phone and bank records from 2018 show that he was almost certainly in the state of Georgia at the time of the alleged assault. That there's a debit card that shows that he made a purchase at a gas station in Loganville, Georgia, and then that there were also calls made, placed, and received, around 16 of those calls on that date, each of them which originated from Atlanta. So I'm told that Atlanta and Loganville, Georgia are all within the same area. So that's why his attorneys are saying that this is like most certainly it lacks foundational and factual evidence that he was even there at the time. They go on to say that all of the charges on his debit card that were between March 18th and March 15th and March 26th of 2018 were made within the state of Georgia, and that there are 10 charges in total during this time period. Um, so they're saying a lot of these purchases were also made in Duluth, at a Longhorn Steakhouse. This debit card at a Longhorn Steakhouse in Duluth, and the Duluth is approximately 15-minute drive away from the Atlanta area. And they're also sort of piecing together the phone calls as well. So they're just saying he was not there. Um, now, the plaintiff's counsel during the hearing argued that the evidence does not conclusively establish that Drewski was in Georgia at the time of the alleged assault, because the phone number associated with the phone records, as I mentioned at the top, are registered under the name of Cheryl Desportes, who is Drewski's mother. Desportes, Cheryl, she also submitted current phone records showing that Drewski still uses the phone number associated with the records from March 2018. Like, this is actually his phone. So given that the phone records reflect a pattern of activity that is consistent with his bank records, and that it would be unusual for someone to port over a phone number that was previously not their own, that the records indicate almost certainly that Drewski was in Atlanta at the time of this alleged assault, essentially. Now, you might be wondering, well, what is this all stemming from? Because there have been so many lawsuits flying around the P. Diddy universe, if you will, especially the civil case, the civil lawsuits. I think he's up to somewhere in the 80s. Some people say 60s. Civil lawsuits against them. So you may be wondering which one is this one. Look, I'll take you back. So in October 2024, Ashley Parham, she's the plaintiff in this case. She launched a lawsuit against several defendants. The defendants are Sean Combs, Christina Coram. Again, this is the infamous Christina Coram, who is the Ghislaine Maxwell of this whole scenario, Sean Combs scenario. Someone by the name of Shane Pierce. And then there are 3 John Does that were named and 1 Jane Doe. And in her original complaint, which took place on in 2024, in her original complaint, she alleges that she met Shane Pierce at a bar in February 2018. And then while they were there, uh, he allegedly FaceTimes with Sean Combs, and that there was some sort of tense exchange with Combs over FaceTime because Parham allegedly accused Sean Combs of being responsible for Tupac Shakur's death. Now, you may have some memory of this particular civil case, or someone mentioning that, he got irate with some woman after she accused him of unaliving Tupac. You may have heard about it, but sort of filed it away in some sort of, in your brain, like, this is ridiculous, town, because it sounds a little bit far fetched. But what I've learned with this trial that is now over and with these civil cases is that fact is stranger than fiction in this case, because there is no way that no one would have been able to convince me without some sort of testimony and evidence at the top of this thing. No one would have been able to convince me that Sean Combs was ordering male prostitutes. So, I now feel like anything is possible in this case, especially anything is possible as it relates to Sean Combs. So, according to the complaint, Pierce, this Shane Pierce guy, he had invited this Ashley woman over to his home in Orinda, California on March 23rd in 2018 or 2018 after you know she took after she and he took a ride in his car, and they then returned to his residence, right? So they got there, and then after that they left, took a ride around the neighborhood or wherever they were, and then they went back to the house. And about 10 minutes later, Sean Combs shows up, and he's accompanied with Christina Coram and the other John Doe defendants. So these are the three John Does. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if this was supposed to be some sort of security or something. And the allegation is that at that point, Combs allegedly threatened Miss Parham with a knife, and then he violently RAPED'd her right there. And she is claiming that Shane and the other Doe defendants, including an individual identified as Jane Doe 1 in the initial complaint. I mean, sorry, John Doe 1 in the initial complaint also RAPED'd her. So she's claiming that Sean Combs RAPED'd her. Then there were the other Doe defendants, which included and someone identified as Doe 1, that they also RAPED'd her. Now, the Doe 1 that was initially identified is later identified as Drewski. That's how this goes, okay? And that's how his name sort of gets tossed into this allegation. Now, she alleges that Shane, who she met at this bar and all that, and later RAPED'd her along with Sean Combs and the Does, set her up to be assaulted because of these statements that she made about Sean Combs allegedly, unaliving Tupac on the FaceTime call at the bar. And then a complaint alleges facts in great detail relating to the lead up of the March 2018 incident, and then the subsequent alleged gang RAPE, and then the aftermath of the RAPE. Now, Drewski was not named in the initial complaint, as I said, but then on March 2025, so about 3 months ago, she filed an amended complaint, and then she named additional defendants. So she started identifying who these particular John and Jane Does were. And among those defendants, there are a slew of them. Odell Beckham Jr. is mentioned. Of course, Drewski. I'm trying to point out the ones that are very high profile names. Janice Combs is another in the amended complaint. And she says that, Drewski is one of the defendants alleged to have participated in this gang, RAPE, and he is identified in the initial complaint as John Doe 1, as I stated. Now, um, this is all a little bit unbelievable when you start talking about Odell Beckham Jr. You start bringing in Janice Combs. You start bringing in all these other people into this complaint as recent as March 2025. Now, again, fact is stranger in fiction. We've learned that in this case. We can't even say what's true and what's not, but I would say that the fact that what I just, sort of explained to you in terms of how this incident took place, it doesn't really make sense to me. Now, we know that Janice Combs was not there in the initial gang RAPE, but I believe her name has been added to this as part of the aftermath of the gang RAPE. And then, of course, what in my mind sort of stuck out to me is at least some of this might be true in terms of the situation overall is the Christina Quorum. We know that she was, number one in terms of being the person that, sort of orchestrated and was part of this entire sort of thing where she sort of helped Sean Combs sort of hide a lot of things and sort of, she hired a lot of the staff, and she was basically the chief of staff. But all of this sort of sounds a little non-sequential, excuse me, here, because it's kind of like, well, this happened on this date with these people, and then after this, somehow Janice Combs and Odell Beckham Jr. get involved in all of this. Now, they haven't said that Odell Beckham Jr. was one of the initial John Doe's mentioned in the initial lawsuit. But right now, what it is going on is this is Drewski really trying to absolve himself from this mess. Now, Drewski is, we all know, you may not know, Drewski is a social media comedian. He got his start on social media. He's now sort of, expanded his career into commercials and things of that nature. He's in some commercials now. But he is a comedian that started on Instagram and some other, does a lot of, clips and bids with celebrities and does a lot of celebrity collaborations and things of that nature. He's also been on several podcasts. So he's sort of like I would call him a creator celebrity, if you will, somebody who has really made a name for himself in the creator world. So he's really trying to sort of clean his name up as it relates to this case because he doesn't want to be involved with this. Now, Ashley Parham's people, they have until September 9th, 2025, so just in a few weeks, to show cause as to Drewski's involvement. This is after Drewski's attorneys have said, look, we have the receipts here. These are the receipts, guys. They say this is the receipt. We've got the records that say that Drewski was not even in the state of California, that he was in Georgia at the time. How could he have been involved in these in this assault when he was making purchases at Kroger's and Longhorn Steakhouse and in and around the Atlanta, Loganville, Duluth, Georgia area? You know, his phone records also show that he made multiple calls originating from Atlanta from the phone. Yes, this is a phone that is in his mother Cheryl Desbordes' name, but his mother has given records stating that in 2018 this was his phone. Here are the records now that show that now in 2025, this is still his phone. This is not a situation where this kid or guy, excuse me, where this man was sort of, just saying this was his phone. And no, this is his actual working phone. So with the records and with the phone records and with the bank statements, sort of putting him in that place, Drewski's attorneys are saying this is a false allegation and you need to get our client's name out of this boggled lawsuit immediately. This, of course, is just one, as I said, of several Sean Combs lawsuits that are looming over him at this point. Obviously, he made big ticket news a few weeks ago as it relates to $100 million lawsuit that he has out against Courtney Burgess, his attorney, Ariel Mitchell, and News Nation for a gaggle of interviews that they conducted with News Nation host Ashley Banfield, for some other News Nation hosts as well, sort of alleging that this zip drive, one of the 11 that were allegedly given to him by Kim Porter, posthumously after her death, that these photos and videos of celebrities in Sean Combs' home doing all manner of things. They allege minors are involved in it. So Sean Combs has sued them he amended his initial $50 million lawsuit to another $50 million lawsuit, to altogether $100 million, alleging defamation, saying that this is hurting his brand, hurting his reputation, that Courtney Burgess has no proof of these things, that News Nation sort of ran with this without really seeing what the truth is. So this is just adds more onto the civil case. Now, as it relates to civil cases, and I said this in the episode where I talked about these particular lawsuits, the $100 million lawsuit from Sean Combs, especially, Sean Combs is going to have to pay up on some of these lawsuits, because some of these lawsuits are very much, they're more easy to prove, especially after the trial case, than some of the other ones. Some of these of the other lawsuits, regardless how I feel or you feel or whomever feels about the case, some of these other lawsuits are frivolous. And this is sort of par for course when you have this kind of high profile case. There are going to be what I call loony birds, who sort of, or vultures, if you will, who come out of the woodworks. They smell a dead body, and they're hungry to get their share of, of the pride, if you will. And they are stalking to see if there's any opportunity. Now, I am not calling Ashley Parham in any way, shape, or form a vulture. But what I am saying is that, as it relates to a lot of these lawsuits, that some of these lawsuits are hedging on the frivolous side. Her lawsuit, I don't know the intricate details of the lawsuit, but based on what I know about the lawsuit now, her lawsuit just seems to be the real issue with her lawsuit is the non-sequential nature of the lawsuit, where she's saying this happened on this date and these people were supposed to be there, but then we have records showing that these people were actually in a different city and state altogether. And then we have things that are supposedly happened after the actual incident in the lawsuit. So there's aftermath, and then she has other people named in the lawsuit, like Odell Beckham Jr. and Janice Combs. And so all of those things sort of make it a little bit tough. So I would say this is probably just one of many hurdles that are going to be part of this lawsuit, in terms of legitimizing the lawsuit and legitimizing the players in the lawsuit. Okay, let's move on to DDG. Um, so there was a custody hearing as it relates to DDG and Halle Bailey. They are the parents of little Halo. Now, DDG, obviously, you guys know, you're going to see me looking over here because I have notes that I'm looking at over here. But DDG, he's obviously a rapper that people know of. I actually don't really know him as a rapper. I don't know any of his music or anything like that. I actually only know DDG because of Halle Bailey, really, because I only know him because of the fact that he started dating her and then they had a child. That's really the only reason I know him, and I'm just being very bluntly honest about it. And I am someone who listens to hip hop, rap, but I will say I don't listen to the new stuff. So I'm much more of, uh early 2000s on back. So that might disqualify me from legitimacy in terms of not really knowing him as a rapper. Anyway, so in the ongoing custody battle with these two, there is a new judge presiding. There was a hearing, I believe it was today, and the attorneys in this case were pushing hard to delay this case um, 4 weeks in hopes of getting a new judge. So they have that new judge now. DDG's mother was apparently asked to leave the courtroom because she is an actual witness in the case in this custody hearing. So she was not in the courtroom. Now, as it relates to the main arguments in the case, this is you know the family court. So the family court prosecutors are saying that they're claiming that DDG staged paparazzi during an ice cream outing with the child. Now, I listen, guys. When it comes to these celebrities and their kids and what they do with them, I really feel that a lot of celebrities utilize their children as attention getters, pawns, however you want to see that or name it, especially when these children are probably under the age of like preteen, 12, 13 years old. Um, and people are sort of like toting their kids around and doing things just to sort of get attention. It's the people like Halle Berry, whose daughter, we've not seen her face in so many years. Her son, we've not seen him. It's people like Halle Berry. I would also name probably people like Tyra Banks, who don't really tote their kids out. They don't do the whole, grandstand walk. They want to keep their kids. They want to keep them innocent and they want to keep them, private, a part of their private lives. It's people like that who I'm like, okay, is it possible for these other celebrities to sort of take a page out of their, book and just do that? Even if you're not utilizing your kids as a pawn, there could be a lot of, danger and sort of even making your kid part of your own image, even without you doing that, like purposely. You see, like, for instance, I would say Rihanna and ASAP Rocky are a really great example. They are people who have these two kids going on three. And these kids are just part of their lives. They're just their kids. They take them to the movie premieres. They do this, they do that with them. And still, they are still sort of putting them in a little bit of the line of fire as it relates to people to make comments about them, to for people to have opinions about the things that they may be wearing, even though they are a kid. And you see people get upset with other people and the social media comments like, oh, that's a kid. You have no right to comment on the kid. But as I said about, people who date celebrities, it's sort of the same thing for the kid. When you put your kid out there or when you put your significant other out there as a celebrity, they then become part of the representation of said celebrity. So anything that kid or that significant other does, what they wear, how they look, what they're saying reflects on the celebrities, their celebrity uh sort of personality, right? That they reflect that celebrity just in general. And so going back to Halle Bailey and DDG, they've been very public with Halo, which I think is fine. It's their first baby. They're, young. They're in their 20s. Of course, Halle just wanted to show her baby off. He's a very cute little kid. But the court is now saying that DDG has been utilizing this kid as a pawn, essentially. They said that he basically sort of set up paparazzi shots, had paparazzi setups when he was taking the kid for, ice cream. Now, part of this could also be a little bit of DDG sort of trying to get some positive publicity because as we noted, or as we will note, or are noting now, Halle Bailey and DDG have had a contentious sort of custody run with one another since they broke up, and they just have decided that they're going to co-parent. There's a lot of, obviously their breakup was very public with Halle, accusing him of cheating on her with some other, I think, an Instagram model or something like that. And so with that happening, DDG could be looking for a little bit of positive, celebrity sort of publicity here. Don't paint me to be the bad guy. See, I am a good guy. Here I am with my kid. So it may not be malicious on his part that if he did call paparazzi, or if he is doing the pap stroll with his kid, it may not be malicious, but at the same time, the court is saying it's inappropriate and you should not be doing that. They're also arguing that the child should not be on social media. That's what the prosecutors are saying in family court. Now, we got to blame both DDG and Halle Bailey for that, because they both have sort of had this sort of very public social media thing. I agree personally. I don't have kids. I'm not a celebrity or anything like that. But if I did have kids, as a private citizen, I probably would not show my kid on social media very much. What's the point? Number one. Number two, the the longer that you can protect your child from, the online gawkers and hawkers, the better off the child is. Also, let's be clear that there are weirdos out here in social media land that, just might be looking at your child for a number of reasons, or want to see your child for a number of reasons. So I think it's a good idea. It's a good practice for them specifically, but actually for all celebrities to keep their kids off of social media. Obviously, you have a fan base. If you want to do that one initial photo when the kid is born, because people want to see the kid and they're like, oh my God, it's DDG and Halle Bailey's kid, and they just want, and you want to do that one photo, that's fine. But both DDG and Halle Bailey have been on the social media, showing the kid at, listening sessions, just out with their parents, just in general, which is their prerogative to do. But the court is now saying, no, it is not your prerogative. It's our prerogative. And we are saying the kid should not be on social media at all. They're also saying that DDG's his fan base, causes harassment towards Halle Bailey, which we've seen that in the social media posts. I've seen it at least. And I think he also, DDG, um, in his attempt to seek good dad publicity for himself, I think he also contributes to the fan base harassment, because he's sort of, just trying to get good publicity, saying that she's trying to make him look bad. And of course, with his fans feeling beholden and loyal to him, they of course are going to take his side, and they're going to say vicious things like people do on the internet all the time. They say vicious things about people because there's nothing that other person can do about it. They say vicious things about people because there's no way for that person to identify them. Or what are you going to do, send me to internet jail? You know what I mean? So people say things all the time that are vicious, that are mean, and that essentially is bullying and harassment. And the court is saying your fan base is contributing to that. And then lastly, the court prosecutors want restriction on DDG specifically posting Halo online. Now, this is what DDG's attorneys are saying. They are denying any arranged paparazzi. They're saying that DDG cannot control who films him in public. They're also requesting overnight visitation, they want weekends plus midweek time. He wants rather weekends with Halo plus midweek time. He's proposed a schedule of every Saturday and alternating Sundays, and this would be from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. plus midweek or Wednesday visitations. And then that he's open to monitored visitations to ensure no photography or videography is taken at the time. Now, I think this is a really great step. I applaud DDG for stepping forward and taking steps to actually make plans to have his child in his life. There are so many people, men and women both, who are deadbeat parents and don't even make the attempt to be in their child's life. So especially after a nasty breakup where there are still feelings looming. So I applaud him for really making the effort, taking the steps to do it, because of course if he were not making those efforts and those attempts, Halle Bailey would basically be calling him a deadbeat. You know what I mean? So the fact that he wants to be in his kid's life is very good. Now, some people might say, well, why should you be applauded for, just doing the thing that you're supposed to do? And I agree with that as well. But that's just me personally just saying I'm glad to see it, because he can so easily, given his lifestyle, given who he is, as an artist and his popularity, apparently, specifically on social media, he could so easily just say he didn't want to be bothered with it. You know what I mean? Now, the judge's notes. The judge emphasized the importance of the monitoring during the visit. So the judge agrees that these visits need to be monitored. You basically volunteered to be monitored. We're going to take you up on that. The judge ordered both parents not to post the kid online. So this is exactly what I said, that they're both equally responsible for a lot of this behavior. And the judge is now saying, do not post your kid online. Sorry, but that's not allowed. And then they are going to setting this over for a continuance, which is basically an additional hearing to finalize all of these items set for October 15th. So the case is getting more ratcheted up. The prosecution, family court prosecution, is really sort of talking more about this harassment online, the social media harassment. And then, of course, the defense is just really saying we can't do anything about that. That has nothing to do with us. But what we do want is to establish and lock in these visitation rights for DDG. Okay, guys, well, that's going to be it for us for today. This has been your girl, Miss Public Info, here on Casting Court TV. I appreciate you rocking with me today, and we will be back with more updates, more news, and more on tomorrow. Thanks so much, guys, and we'll see you soon. Peace.